Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV. I'm Sarah Jacob. It is a super Saturday. Big news coming in. Elections going to be held even as new results have come in of the number of COVID cases in states across India. But the big story right now came in this evening with the Election Commission holding that press conference announcing that elections will be held in UP, Goa, Manipur, Punjab and Uttarakhand over 7 phases starting on the 10th of February, and the counting of votes is scheduled for the 10th of March. And in a first, the Election Commission today announced a moratorium on physical rallies or road shows till the 15th of January as part of its COVID safety rules. The Commission has banned all physical rallies, road shows and meetings till the 15th of January. The order, they say, will be reviewed later since, and I'm quoting the Commission here, the ground situation is dynamic.
The Commission has decided that no road show, padyatra, cycle, bike vehicle rally and procession shall be allowed till 15th January 2022. Between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., no rallies and public meetings. Similar like a campaign curfew that on any campaign day. That will continue. No nukkad sabhas will be allowed on public roads, roundabouts or public streets or corners.
And the holding of timely elections is the essence of maintaining a democratic governance, the Chief Election Commissioner said today as the top poll body defended its decision to go ahead with elections despite a frightening surge of COVID-19 cases in the third wave. This says India has reported over 1.41 lakh new cases this morning. That's up from 21% from yesterday. But the Commission says it's decided to go ahead with the polls after detailed discussions with the Union Health and the Home Secretaries, with experts and health officials of the concerned states.
As you are aware, and I think you must be reading also all the, where is the more cases of the corona. I think the maximum is in Maharashtra, followed by Delhi, Karnataka, and I don't think there's any election in this area. Is there any election here? No. Everything is still rising. So we cannot say that corona is only because of the elections. It can be anything. It is general natural flow of the corona.
So what's the picture going to look like going ahead? What kind of election is this going to be? Well, let's give you a big picture. So no rallies or political campaign events are going to be allowed between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. every day. All political parties have been urged to campaign digitally where possible, limit activities in public. Door-to-door campaigning is limited to 5 people per campaigning team. Voting hours in all states have been extended by an hour only. Around 1,250 people will be allowed per booth. Furthermore, all polling stations will be equipped with sanitizers and staffs will have to wear masks. That's been the case anyway in the previous elections we saw in Bengal, Tamil Nadu, etc. too. But the Election Commission says that efforts are being made to ensure maximum coverage of double vaccination for voters in each state. He says that over 9 crore voters have received both shots, that all polling staff have been double vaccinated and that they will get those what we in India are calling the precautionary doses, what is known in the rest of the world as the booster shot. So how are our political parties reacting? Listen in.
नए भारत के नए उत्तर प्रदेश में लोकतंत्र का ये महापर्व का हम हृदय से स्वागत करते हैं। 10 मार्च 2022 को जब उत्तर प्रदेश विधानसभा चुनाव के परिणाम आएंगे तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी प्रचंड बहुमत के साथ जनता जनार्दन का आशीर्वाद प्राप्त करने में सफल होगी, इसमें कोई संदेह नहीं होना चाहिए।
10 मार्च तक जनता को मौका मिला है फैसला लेने का, और जिस तरीके से भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने यहाँ के किसानों को दुखी किया, गरीब जनता को दुखी किया, अन्याय की सभी सीमा लांघ गए, नौजवानों को बड़े पैमाने पे बेरोजगारी में छोड़ दिया, किसान के हित के लिए कोई फैसला नहीं लिया। इसलिए 10 मार्च के बाद उत्तर प्रदेश से भारतीय जनता पार्टी का साफ होना तय है।
कांग्रेस पार्टी का हर कार्यकर्ता और हर नेता 5 राज्यों में इन चुनावों को मजबूती से लड़ेगा और भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकारों को 4 राज्यों के अंदर जबरदस्त तरीके से पटकनी देगा और पंजाब में एक बार फिर कांग्रेस का झंडा फिर लहराएगा। और उस चुनावी हार के लिए ये एक स्वर्णिम रास्ता, एक सुनहरी मौका आया है। इन 5 राज्यों में भाजपा को हराइए, महंगाई को भी हराइए, बेरोजगारी को भी हराइए, किसान विरोधी ताकतों को भी हराइए।
आम आदमी पार्टी चुनाव की इन डेट्स का स्वागत करती है और पूरी तरीके से मजबूती के साथ आने वाले समय में इन इलेक्शंस को लड़ेगी। और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि 14 फरवरी को होने वाला चुनाव पंजाब में, उत्तराखंड में, गोवा में आम आदमी पार्टी के लिए बहुत सफल रहेगा। और खास करके पंजाब में, जहां पर हर सर्वे ये दिखा रहा है कि आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार बन रही है, लोगों की जुबान पे बस एक मौका केजरीवाल नू की बात है।
It is good. I do welcome the announcement, and our state will pass in a 2 phase. Now you see, just the election commission is doing everything is after seeing the analysis the prevailing situation of COVID, and thus we have seen in the many states due to Omicron, number of positivity is increasing. Because of that, they are giving deadline, say something up to 15 January to see the situation.
All right, so an unprecedented election in a sense, at least for the next week for sure, unless that's extended. So what do we expect? What should we expect? Let's go across to Joy Bose, author and columnist, joining us. We have Kartikeya Batra, research scholar, the University of Maryland, and NDTV Sanket Upadhyay. Sanket, to you first, the big story, of course, a big takeaway today, no rallies, albeit just till the 15th for now. But Sanket, how is the EC going to enforce this? I mean, who is going to be held accountable to this? At the same time, the EC says they've advised parties to conduct their campaigns as much as possible through digital, virtual media and comply with COVID norms. Is this an advisory? Is this more than that? What is this?
Yeah, so Sarah, 2 or 3 things. When the Election Commission says that there is a complete ban on road shows, bike rally, car rally or any form of rally and a physical rally till the 15th of January, that means that there will be absolutely no physical campaigning of any form, not advice. This advisory aspect of the Election Commission's statement had to do as a general principle that even if campaigning were later to be allowed, even then they would advise political parties to choose the digital medium. But till the 15th of January, any form of physical campaigning, rally, roadshow, procession are banned. Now, how is this going to be implemented? This question was asked of the Chief Election Commissioner. They said that obviously the moment anybody holds a road rally or an actual rally and these visuals come to light or somebody complains, then they will act. There will be a probe which will be conducted, and if a person is found violating, they would be barred from contesting or holding any rally in that area. Now, we do not know the exact details of the nature of punishment. As of now, Sarah, what we know is that the Election Commission has banned these rallies. What the punishment is going to be or the method with which the Election Commission will find out if whether someone is guilty or not is still not known. Secondly, 15th of January is just a sort of a tentative, date, keeping in mind the dynamic nature, as the Chief Election Commissioner said, of COVID. So if cases rise, then the CEC says that there could be harsher steps that can be taken, which means not just rally ban, then certain other things may also be banned. But if cases start coming down miraculously, because that's not happening the way COVID is rising, then in that case, this could be extended also. If cases, if cases start coming down, then in that case the rallies can begin, physical rallies can begin again. So the Election Commission has left this little room open for negotiation, keeping in mind the nature in which the COVID-19 virus is going to develop. But one thing that I wanted to tell you, and this is also a subject matter of discussion, I was talking to a few candidates, especially from Noida, Dadri, because this is going to go to polls in the first phase. And they say that this is gross injustice to us, because our phase is going to come up first, and we will never get the right to campaign with the way COVID is spread out.
Yeah.
And the people in the later phases will have the luxury of campaigning. So it is already not equal, this decision.
Well, clearly, if you look at the tea leaves, if you have to read the tea leaves, Ajay Bose, then this is going to be, given the way we've seen what we know of COVID, what we know of Omicron and how infectious it is, it looks like a lot of this election may have to be conducted online. Right, and the government advising everyone to have digital, virtual media, comply with COVID norms. So whoever moves first has first mover advantage on this front. That said, do you think we should have heard something from the EC, both whether the EC or whether the journalists who were questioning the EC at the end of this press conference didn't raise any issues about how do you monitor behavior and compliance when you're conducting a digital campaign? We've seen huge worries about this when the election campaigns have been conducted on WhatsApp over the past few elections, but that didn't feature anywhere in today's press conference. Did that surprise you?
Well, not only that, what I found really strange for the election commissioner to mention that Maharashtra and Delhi is where the surge is.
Yes.
And that the cases are very high. The question is that Maharashtra and Delhi are peaking, and it is quite possible that within a week it will start stabilizing, and then, as we've seen all over the world, it comes down. The really dangerous places are the places left, like Uttar Pradesh, which is a big one really, and that
but only one-third have been vaccinated till now, one-third of the population.
Absolutely. And we don't know how many are being tested. I mean, that's a really dark area because it's very, very remote places in UP where there's hardly any testing facilities. It's unlike Delhi or Bombay or, which are highly developed. So, the problem is that you are going to conduct these elections at a time when COVID will be surging in these election states. Now, I really don't know how they plan to do it. Because even on counting day, when you are asking as many voters to come out, that's the time when I think parts of India will be really surging. Because, as you know, India is like a continent. It's not like a little country. It is so large and so diverse. And we've seen that the first 2 years of the COVID has shown that it has moved from state to state to state. So I think that the EC's decision to go ahead with these elections, and the government's decision to go ahead with the elections, come what may, I think is a little not really thought out. They could have easily, the world would not have collapsed if they had seen this thing come down. After all, democracy.
Well, we've been doing extensive coverage of the spread of the pandemic and the coronavirus and Omicron, and all of our experts are predicting the peak or the third wave to be, in second week of February.
Sarah,
but Sanket, let me ask you that, right? You heard a very strong, a very defensive EC today saying that when it pointed out that Maharashtra and Delhi are seeing a huge surge in cases and they're not having any elections. So basically saying elections have nothing to do with rising cases. And clearly the background to that is that the EC got a lot of flack after the previous assembly election.
As we have seen, as Ajayda was just saying, we have seen how this virus develops. So you have these urban pockets. That's where the virus, because of its density, explodes first, and then it travels into the hinterland. That's exactly what happened last time in the second wave and the first wave. Things are not going to be any different. And when the most populous state of the country goes to polls or in election mode, then it will definitely travel along with the campaigners. So in that context, what the Election Commission has done or the logic it has presented, one really does not understand. Another point that I noticed when Ajay Bose was speaking is that the Election Commission said, see, we have to take care of three people: poll booth, poll officers and the electorate. As far as the electorate is concerned, the figures given by the Election Commission itself on vaccination are as follows. In Goa, 86% have got the double dose. That figure in Uttar Pradesh is only 52%. In Punjab is only 50%. and in Manipur is only 43%. So by their own admission, the Election Commission, says that the double dose vaccination in these poll-bound states is low. It's only 50%. And still then you want this election process. I think a lot of what the Election Commissioner did had to do with the preamble he set for the declaration of these dates, where he said that Article 172(1) says that every legislative assembly, unless dissolved, will exist only for 5 years.
Correct.
So it's this election process as a constitutional requirement has been prioritized, and then everything else has been backfilled.
Well, then the question is, did the EC have any options? Did the EC have any choices? How do you go ahead? How do you, as the EC put it, conduct elections that protect both the voter and the vote in a participative and accessible manner? And the broad objective, according to the EC, was to conduct a COVID-free election with maximum participation. But that's easier said than done. I'm going to go in for a short break, but after that, I have Kartikeya Batra, research scholar at the University of Maryland. We'll come back and Kartikeya, get your views on this. Just hold on a second there. Welcome back. The dates have been announced for the upcoming assembly elections over the next month, even as COVID cases start to peak as we hit the third wave squarely. Straight on, India is going to be seeing elections in 5 states. Kartikeya Batra, research scholar at the University of Maryland, joins us. So, Kartikeya, given the times that we live in, given that the Election Commission says political parties are urged to campaign digitally wherever possible, limit activities in public, who do you think has the advantage in this scenario?
No, so Sarah, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I would first like to chime in on what Ajoyda was saying, and the whole issue about COVID and whether these elections should have taken place or not, with your permission. So I really think that, the times we live in are full of uncertainty. So variants will keep coming. So my sense is that things are going on, and we have to live with this pandemic, because at some point it will turn into an endemic disease. Having said that, what I'm disappointed with is the justifications given by the Election Commissioner and the way he spoke about the pandemic as if he were an expert on the subject. I'd rather have the Election Commission working with a body of experts to actually chalk out the strategy for these polls.
Well, they say that they have spent the days in the run-up to this weekend meeting with experts. They say they based all their decisions.
The health ministry, Sarah.
Yeah.
Officials from the health ministry.
Even if they have statements such as the pandemic is still happening in Delhi and Maharashtra, not in the states where the polls are going to be happening, I am not very sure how informed that opinion is. Therefore, I have my doubts about that statement as well, with all due respect. Because as Sanket was rightly saying, the nature of the pandemic is it starts in urban centers, then spreads into the more rural areas, and almost all of the states that are going to the polls this time are predominantly rural states. So we will have a situation where their peaks might be staggered. Now, that said, coming back to your question, where you say that, who do you think it will stand at an advantage because of this whole digital campaigning mode? I think it's a double-edged sword. Why I think so is the following. Because there are these big parties, especially the BJP, who've mastered the art of using social media. And so definitely they have not just the resources, but also I think the skill required to wage this sort of an electoral war using digital means. On the other hand, where it levels the playing field is that you're not doing big rallies anymore, right? You're not gathering people. So expenditures go down on that front. The Aam Aadmi Party, if we may remember, started in Delhi. Now that Delhi is not a good example because it's a very small city state, so probably doing that was easier. They basically piggybacked on their social media strategy, and that's how they became a force to reckon with. So that tells you, if that were a microcosm of the larger context, parties that are able to use social media effectively probably don't need as many resources because they're not relying on the more expensive events. In fact, I would go on to say that the BJP, which is in a habit of creating grand events, grand imagery, might actually not be very happy with this. But Sarah, having said that, I think we will have to wait and see how effective this sort of directive is and how far can the Election Commission stretch it. I will only be convinced by the Election Commission's intent and action if I actually see that this 1 week sort of moratorium is not mere lip service and that they can actually go beyond this period when and if required. For the sake of the nation, I hope things become normal soon and that this election goes on as planned. But just in case that does not happen, it will be a true test of the Election Commission as well.
All right, that's all we have time for, unfortunately. But thank you all for joining us. This, of course, is going to be the big story of the day that we're going to be focusing on NDTV. Bye-bye.